Spider-Man 2! Welcome back to my series of Spider-Man reviews leading up to Civil War. I've already covered the first film, and now we're going to talk about the second film, which some feel is actually better than the first one. Spider-Man 2, I remember it was in the afternoon. I remember waiting outside the theater, and as I was waiting to go in, I noticed that around me were all these kids that I knew I went to school with. And it was a strange feeling because I was very much like Peter Parker when I was in school. Nerd. Got picked on a lot. Not a lot of friends. And it was weird to see a lot of the cool kids in line with me for Spider-Man 2 and realizing you guys like this shit too and you're just too afraid to admit it. For me, Spider-Man 2 is better than the first one. It is a film that fleshes out its characters much better. It actually feels like a film. It doesn't necessarily feel like a superhero movie, but the movie fleshes out its characters. The characters are so strong, they're so compelling. Each character has something driving him or her, and each person feels as if they have emotions that are earned. And where at times you might think the pacing is dwindling a little bit because we haven't seen a lot of Spider-Man lately, you realize as the film goes on that building the hero, not necessarily the costumed hero, but Peter Parker as a hero, building up his character, building up MJ's character, giving Aunt May more things to think about, introducing the great Alfred Molina as Otto Octavius and giving him a great backstory, and having all of these people be so realistic and so grounded that when the crazy awesome superhero stuff is happening, you can get so invested in it because you really do care about the people behind the suits. And that's where it really shines. Spider-Man 2 is one of the best superhero movies ever made, I think. Paga! Joe's 29-minute delivery is a promise, man. I know to you a promise means nothing, but to me, it's serious. The opening pizza stuff reminded me of the game. This is actually one of the best movie-based games ever made. Spider-Man 2, the game, you have to deliver a lot of pizzas and get them there on time. It's tons of fun. I had a great time with this game when I was a kid. One of the reasons Spider-Man 2 is, in my opinion, the best Spider-Man film we have seen yet is because it understands the character of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, the duality there, and what needs to be present for his character to work. And that is, you gotta keep beating on this guy. You just got to keep pounding him into the ground. And that's what this film does. You care so much about Peter. His grades are failing. He's slipping at school. He can't figure out how to approach the woman he loves in Mary Jane Watson. And she's dating someone. And this guy wants to marry her. And Harry is pissed at Peter because Harry thinks that Spider-Man killed his father. And Peter's the guy who's taken all of Spider-Man's pictures. So his friends are falling out. The love of his life doesn't want to have anything to do with him because Peter can't make it to an 8 o'clock curtain to see Mary Jane in a play. Shoelace. You might want to... Can I help you? And that's why I love these first two Raimi films so much. They clearly have an understanding of this character. It really does show what it would be like for a normal kid to be Spider-Man and how hard that would be. In fact, Stan Lee has said that the reason Spider-Man wears a mask is because he wants to hide his fear from his enemies. Whereas, say, someone like Batman wants to inflict fear into his enemies, Spider-Man wants to hide that. And that's so beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. You have a real human kid who's trying to make a difference, but he's just a kid. In fact, in this film, after the brilliant train scene, and he's unconscious, there's a guy looking down at him and he's like, he's just a kid, no older than my son. The bits of conflict that were set up between Harry and Peter in the first film, all that comes back to play in Spider-Man 2, because Peter isn't telling Harry where Spider-Man is because he is Spider-Man, but Harry doesn't know that. There's this heartbreaking scene at this gala event where Harry slaps Peter in the face 2 times. He's drunk, and right after that happens, you learn that Mary Jane has agreed to marry this astronaut guy. I mean, this movie just pounds Peter Parker into the dirt. It even sets up conflict between Aunt May and Peter because Peter finally admits to her in this film that he was present and partially responsible for Uncle Ben's death. It's a very well-written movie, and I gotta talk about Alfred Molina. This guy nailed Otto Octavius. I mean, he was so good. And I love the practical arm effects as well that are behind him most of the time. I must talk about the brilliant hospital scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in any superhero film ever. It's filmed like a horror movie. I mean, it's very Evil Dead, and some people said it was too violent, but I don't think that way at all because it needed to be there to set up how destructive Otto Octavius could really be if he let himself give into this. I do have some issues with the movie, and one of them is that I feel like MJ is way too harsh on Peter for missing her play. She really, really lays it on him. And I know she's dealing with a lot of emotional turmoil. To me, it just feels a little too harsh and almost like it was just a plot device. Like, we need to have this happen so that this can happen. So we'll have her get really, really absurdly pissed about this play thing and just move on from there. But when everything is really crushing down on Peter to the point where he just can't take it anymore and he's about to break, he has this almost inner dreamlike vision where he talks to Uncle Ben. And Uncle Ben is reaching out to him saying, "Take my hand, be Spider-Man." And he's like, "No, I'm Spider-Man no more." I've seen this movie multiple times, but rewatching it as an adult, I teared up. It's really powerful. And it's because you're watching a person give up. He's done. He doesn't want to do what he's meant to do anymore because he just can't take it. Now, after those tears went away, it leads to the raindrops keep falling on my head scene, which I love. It's so insane. I remember the first time I saw it in the theater, I was like, what? This is dumb. Then as I rewatched it again, especially the freeze frame shot, oh my dear Lord, it's so hilarious. As I rewatched it again, it grew on me to the point where I was like, this is just original and different. This is so Sam Raimi. This is just a director who's like, this is my style. Deal with it. And there's a great shot in this scene where Parker sees police cars drive by. He looks at them for a second and then takes this absurdly humongous bite of a hot dog. Like, I don't give a shit. As I said, I do have a few issues with this movie. One of them was that MJ seemed too harsh. The other one is this burning building scene that feels like such a tacked on addition, almost like a reshoot. Like somebody at some screening said, hey, there's not enough action. And they're like, all right, we'll just put a burning building scene and we'll use the score from the burning building scene in the first Spider-Man and we'll just have him save a kid for some reason, and yeah. I just don't feel like it has a place in this story. I feel like you really could delete the entire thing. Also, there's a bank sequence where Otto robs a bank, and Peter just runs off, leaves Aunt May there, and then comes back as Spider-Man, saves the day and everything. Aunt May never questions him for running off. Wouldn't you be like, hey, why did you abandon me? And then suddenly reappear. So the only way that cannot be a flaw for me is if Aunt May knows that Peter's Spider-Man, or at least suspects, because in the film she gives him this incredibly heartfelt speech directly at him, like saying, we need Spider-Man. And so if she doesn't know, then she is really laying it on thick. But I have a feeling she suspects. It's just that Spider-Man 3, which we'll talk about soon, never talks about that at all. It's just sort of abandoned. Also, I have to admit, Spider-Man 1 is paced far better. Spider-Man 2 is really only a few minutes longer than Spider-Man 1, and it does feel considerably longer. Spider-Man 1 does have more action, it has more fun scenes, and it's largely paced better than Spider-Man 2 because 2 is more of a drama than the first one was, and it takes its time with its characters, which in my opinion isn't a negative. Another kind of stupid part is that Otto needs tritium to continue his experiment. This is the thing that killed his wife. It almost blew up the city and turned him into Doc Ock, which this is not the stupid part. The stupid part is that he has to go find Peter to figure out where Spider-Man is, because Harry makes a deal with Otto that if you kill Spider-Man, I'll give you all the tritium you need. When he finds Peter, he launches him against a brick wall and could have killed him. He does not know that Peter is Spider-Man. If you really wanted Peter Parker to help you find Spider-Man, you might not want to completely incapacitate him and possibly paralyze him. Nevertheless, it leads into one of my favorite action scenes of all time, the train scene. This thing is frickin' awesome. There are so many cool moments in this scene, like Spidey balancing himself at the last second by spinning this web, or nearly getting sideswiped by another train, jumping into the train around the bars. There's so many amazing moments, him getting dragged on the pavement, then swinging to get back to the train as soon as possible. And this eventually leads into Harry finding out that Peter is Spider-Man, and it's a very good scene because it's quick. And you expect it almost to be like this drawn out thing, but it's so fast. This movie doesn't let too many subplots bog it down so that you forget what the real story is. So we get to the big finale sequence. Of course, MJ is a damsel in distress again, and you kind of deal with it this time. It's like, okay, yeah, all right, but just don't do it again. But they did, and we'll talk about that soon. Doc Ock and Spidey are fighting. It's awesome. It's exciting. And MJ finds out, finally, that Peter is Spider-Man. And it's like this feeling of, like, thank you. Finally, now he doesn't have to explain everything anymore. She can look at him and know exactly what's happening. The emotions, as I said, are earned. In this moment, you just feel so great because the film has built to this and built to this to the point where it does not feel forced. It feels so necessary and it just feels right. And I've always loved this line. It is classic Peter Parker.
Hi.
Hi.
This is really heavy.
The ending of this film is also so great. MJ chooses not to go forth with this marriage. And it's also good because Peter is trying to save her by, I don't want you to be with me because I have enemies and blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, screw you, man. Let me choose what I want to do with my life and I want to be with you. It's wrong for us to only feel half alive. Let's be together. And it's great. It's such a welcome feeling because when you watch this movie, it's like, oh my God, poor Peter. Every scene, you just feel so sorry for this guy. And at the end, it's just like, yes! He finally has something good. But that final shot of MJ is so telling. She's just, oh, I'm alone now. And it's really, really well done. This movie is fantastic. I have but only a few problems with it. The burning building scene, some of the character motivations don't always make sense, but I do love Spider-Man 2, and as of right now, it's my favorite Spider-Man movie, and I'm going to give it an A. Guys, thank you so much for watching my review of Spider-Man 2. I'm going to have my review of Spider-Man 3 for you very soon. Oh, that's going to be a fun one. I got some stuff to say about that. You're the best, guys. Thank you so much. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.